If you want to help out and support the channel, there are a few things you can do. Go check out Flipside Gaming and use the promo code VOIDMAGE in all caps. This will get you 10% off all orders $10 or more. And if you go shopping on tcgplayer.com, go use my affiliate link in the description below. That way all purchases you make will go towards helping the channel. And lastly, go check out my Patreon. It's a more direct way that you can help the channel while also getting some more interaction. I appreciate all of your support. If you haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Hello everyone, since we have Theros Beyond Death coming out in January, I think it's appropriate to go over my picks for the 10 best Theros cards for Commander. Theros, while it may not be the most value-packed set, it has had its impact on Commander, most notably with the introduction of the God cards, indestructible enchantment creatures, focused on your total devotion, which was the mana symbols on the permanents you had. If you met a certain amount of devotion, they became creatures, which was really cool because they were also indestructible, so they were great for combat. They also just had some really powerful abilities. Now, like always, I want to go over some honorable mentions first. Hero's Downfall, very good black removal spell. Being able to hit 2 different permanent types is a good thing. It doesn't really offer you that much versatility though. The big downside in black is not being able to deal with artifacts and enchantments, and this really doesn't help you do either. Whip of Erebos, like a lot of the enchantment artifacts, you had one for each of the gods in the set. I really like Whip of Erebos. It's good for combat, gives all your creatures lifelink. This also is great in reanimator strategies. You can bring a creature back, give it haste. You do have to exile it, but it's still worth it for good ETBs or just some really good combat tricks. Annihilate, God of the Hunt, indestructible enchantment god, gives your creatures trample, which is the best thing about her. Her activated ability though I think is a bit tame for Commander. You will see her though quite a bit in enchantment decks. You'll see her in green decks. Just giving all of your creatures trample is not good enough to make the top 10, but I think it's good enough for a lot of mono green decks. So number 10 is Burnished Heart. For a lot of the same people who have loved playing Solemn Simulacrum, when Burnished Heart came around, it offered you another way if you were playing something like mono white to get more lands. If you're playing any kind of deck that struggles to get it within its own colors, you need artifacts to help you get more land drops. Burnished Heart allows you to get 2 basic lands from your deck. So not only is it good mana ramp, but you could get 2 different lands to help you with your mana fixing. It's more of a mana investment than Solemn Simulacrum, but you can get it out a turn sooner, so some people think it's better than the death trigger that Solemn offers you. Just all around a great filler creature if you desperately need one and you need more land drops. Number 9 is Bident of Fossa, probably what I would consider to be the best enchantment artifact from the set. Out of the 5, it just gives you the most value, I think. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. That's the Coastal Piracy ability. So if you're playing something like the Locust God, this is just so powerful. But it also has an activated ability where you can force creatures your opponents control to attack this turn, which is so underrated because people like to sit on good creatures. Something like Grand Abolisher they're probably not going to be swinging with. You're going to force a creature like that to attack. That's so unfortunate for them if they have to. And number 8 is Xenakis the Reveler. All of the abilities are at least useful. The 0 just gives you a 2/2, which isn't anything super special, but it can help you when you want to use the +1 later on in the game. You get to add X mana and any combination of red and green to your mana pool, where X is the number of creatures you control. Very powerful for token strategies like Wart the Raid Mother, Prosh Sky Raider of Care. But the -6 is just super powerful. You get to exile the top 7 cards of your library. You get to put any number of creature and or land cards from among them onto the battlefield. So not only do you get card advantage out of that, but you get to cheat things into play. All around just a valuable planeswalker, even considering we've received so many since. Number 7 is Erebos God of the Dead. So underrated when you can just have something that stops your opponents from gaining life. Erebos does that while also offering you some card draw. While not the strongest of the gods, there are certain strategies that take advantage of hateful cards, and stopping your opponents from gaining life is absolutely necessary if you plan on making a deck around something like Mogus God of Slaughter or Vile Smasher the Fierce. Those decks with those cards are going to keep grinding away at your opponent's life totals. If they're allowed to gain any life at all, it's going to make it a lot harder for you to end the game. And number 6 is Fossa God of the Sea. A little bit better, a little bit cheaper too, but she just works out perfectly, I think, for a lot more decks. If you want to make a creature unblockable, here you have an indestructible enchantment. Again, very difficult to remove, so if you're playing any kind of Voltron deck or any kind of deck where you have a good combat trigger, like say Brago for instance, you need to connect. That's the whole point of your deck. Fossa is not a terrible option because you have that on an activated ability. She's likely going to stick around. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you scry one, allowing you to set up the card that you eventually draw. She's the cheapest of the first gods in Theros, but just so much value for a variety of decks. Number 5 is Swan Song. This card has quickly become one of the best counterspells in Commander. Both casual and competitive EDH, just a 1-mana counterspell. You're giving a 2/2 bird to someone who cares. You can counter an enchantment, an instant, or a sorcery, which is just incredible. You have 3 different card types that you can counter, and that's how it goes with counterspells. The more that you can actually interact with, the better. So it's immediately better than just a dispel. In Standard, giving someone a 2/2 bird might have mattered, but in Commander, it's just laughable to think that is any kind of drawback. While it may not be a free counterspell like a Pact of Negation, it is one of the many cheap counterspells that you are going to need if you plan on playing more competitively. Number 4 is Nykthos Shrine to Nyx. Pretty much the fair version of cards like Gaia's Cradle, Sarah's Sanctum, you know, those lands from Urza's Saga that could tap for a bunch of 1 mana. Probably the best land for any monocolor deck. It's usually a go-to for people who can't afford things like Gaia's Cradle. Number 3 is Elspeth, Sun's Champion. I've said this for a long time, and I think it's still true. She is probably the best mono-white planeswalker. All of the abilities are just insane. The first one gets you 3 1/1 tokens, which there just isn't anything like it. Xenakis gives you a 2/2 on a 0, which only kind of helps you move forward, but getting 3 1/1s on a plus is just ridiculous. It's helped by the fact that her minus is amazing removal, getting rid of most problem creatures, I would imagine, while also sparing the tokens you probably have been building up to that point, and her ult is a super anthem, giving those creatures flying as well. Single-handedly a win con in Standard, also a win con in Commander, I would argue. Once you do get that anthem, and if you have it out there long enough, every creature you play for the rest of the game is just going to keep getting that advantage of flying, +2/+2. Just very hard to overcome that if your opponents don't have any alternate win cons. Number 2 is Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Theros is all about devotion, and probably the best card related to devotion isn't even a god. ETBs, each opponent loses life equal to your total devotion to black, and you gain that much life. So you have the ETB version of cards like Exsanguinate, Debt to the Deathless, and it's a lot more abusable too. Yeah, you don't just get to dump everything into an X, but you can constantly reanimate it, kill it again, bring it back. Every time you do that, they're just going to keep losing more life, and you're going to gain all of that life that was lost. It's total, so it adds up. If you have 3 opponents and you have 10 devotion to black, you're going to gain 30 life off of a 5 mana common from Theros. That is just ridiculous, and everybody knows it. But the number 1 card from Theros, and it's probably the best red card in Commander, it's Perforce, God of the Forge. And then, of course, there's other cards like Blasphemous Act that I would consider up there on my list of best red cards, but Perforce for the value that you get here. An indestructible red enchantment. Each opponent is going to be dealt 2 damage whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control. You don't even have to care about his ability because you're probably never going to use it. I just mentioned how stupid and how easy it is to do something like Grey Merchant of Asphodel, and that could sometimes be better than Perforce, but when you consider the impact of red, obviously red is not going to be as strong as black in Commander. Black has so many advantages. When Perforce came around, it gave you that extra bit of power for burn decks. Burn not being super viable in Commander unless you're dumping a lot of mana into X spells. You need something that's going to last, that's going to stick around, and Perforce, being an indestructible enchantment, is going to stick around, and every creature you play is going to enter the battlefield and deal more damage to your opponent. This card has been ridiculous, and so many people want cards like these to be reprinted. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you think of Theros. It's been a good 6 years since the set has released, and I know a lot of you are looking forward to the next set, Theros Beyond Death, in January. You're going to see a lot of familiar faces. You all have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you next video. Just wanted to say thanks to the patrons who are supporting me on patreon.com. Go check it out. There are different tiers with their own rewards. One of them is having your name in the credits of my videos. I know it's not much, but it's something that I can do to show my appreciation. Thanks again, and have a good day.